Jai Hind everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel which is Explore Yourselves, Banking and General Knowledge etc. Jai Hind, Historical Events of 2nd May, Journey through Time of 2nd May 2025, Friday. Today's, that is 2nd May, highlight in history. 1611, the King James version of the Bible is published for the first time in London, England by printer Robert Barker. 1625, Afonso Mendes, appointed by Pope Gregory XV as Latin Patriarch of Ethiopia, arrives at Belul from Goa. 1670, King Charles II of England grants a permanent charter to the Hudson's Bay Company to open up the fur trade in North America. 1808, outbreak of the Peninsular War. The people of Madrid rise up in rebellion against French occupation. Francisco de Goya later memorialized this event in his painting The 2nd of May 1808. 1812, the siege of Cuautla during the Mexican War of Independence ends with both sides claiming victory. 1829, after anchoring nearby, Captain Charles Fremantle of HMS Challenger declares the Swan River colony in Australia. 1863, American Civil War. Stonewall Jackson is wounded by friendly fire while returning to camp after reconnoitering during the Battle of Chancellorsville. He succumbs to pneumonia 8 days later. 1866, Peruvian defenders fight off the Spanish fleet at the Battle of Callao. 1876, the April uprising breaks out in Ottoman Bulgaria. 1885, Cree and Assiniboine warriors win the Battle of Cutnife, their largest victory over Canadian forces during the Northwest Rebellion. 1889, Menelik II, Emperor of Ethiopia, signs the Treaty of Uchale, giving Italy control over Eritrea. 1906, closing ceremony of the Intercalated Games in Athens, Greece. 1920, the first game of the Negro National League baseball is played in Indianapolis. 1993, Germany's independent labor unions are replaced by the German Labor Front. 1941, World War II. Following the coup d'etat against Iraq, Crown Prince Abd al-Ullah earlier that year, the United Kingdom launches the Anglo-Iraqi War to restore him to power. 1945, World War II. The Soviet Union announces the fall of Berlin. 1945, World War II. The surrender of Caserta comes into effect by which German troops in Italy cease fighting. 1945, World War II. The US 82nd Airborne Division liberates Ubelin concentration camp, finding 1,000 dead prisoners, most of whom starved to death. 1945, World War II. Death march from Dachau to the Austrian border is halted by the segregated All-Nizhey 522nd Field Artillery Battalion of the US Army in southern Bavaria, saving several hundred prisoners. 1952, a de Havilland Comet makes the first jetliner flight with fare-paying passengers from London to Johannesburg. 1963, Berthold Seliger launches a rocket with three-stage and a maximum flight at altitude of more than 100 kilometers, 62 miles, near Cuxhaven. It is the only sounding rocket developed in Germany. 1964, Vietnam War. An explosion sinks the American aircraft carrier USNS Card while it is docked at Saigon. Two Viet Cong combat swimmers had placed explosives on the ship's hull. She is raised and returned to service less than 7 months later. 1964, first ascent of Sisapangama, the 14th highest mountain in the world and the lowest of the 8,000ers. 1969, the British ocean liner Queen Elizabeth II departs on her maiden voyage to New York City. 1970, ALM Flight 980 ditches in the Caribbean Sea near St. Croix, killing 23. 1972, in the early morning hours, a fire breaks out the Sunshine Mine located between Kellogg and Wallace, Idaho, killing 91 workers. 1982, Falklands War. The British nuclear submarine HMS Conqueror sinks the Argentine cruiser ARA General Belgrano. 1986, Chernobyl disaster. The city of Chernobyl is evacuated 6 days after the disaster. 1989, Cold War. Hungary begins dismantling its border fence with Austria, which allows a number of East Germans to defect. 1995, during the Croatian War of Independence, the army of the Republic of Srpska Krajina fires cluster bombs at Zagreb, killing 7 and wounding over 175 civilians. 1998, the European Central Bank is founded in Brussels in order to define and execute the European Union monetary policy. 1999, Panamanian general election. Mireya Moscoso becomes the first woman to be elected president of Panama. 2000, President Bill Clinton announces that accurate GPS access would no longer be restricted to the United States military. 2004, the Iliwa massacre concludes. It began on 4th February 2004 when armed Muslims killed 78 Christians at Iliwa, Nigeria. In response, about 630 Muslims were killed by Christians on May 2nd. 2008, Cyclone Nargis makes landfall in Burma, killing over 138,000 people and leaving millions of people homeless. 2008, Chaiten volcano begins erupting in Chile, forcing the evacuation of more than 4,500 people. 2011, Osama bin Laden, the suspected mastermind behind the September 11 attacks and the FBI's most wanted man, is killed by the United States Navy SEALs in Abbottabad, Pakistan. 2011, an E. coli outbreak strikes Europe, mostly in Germany, leaving more than 30 people dead and many others are taken ill. 2012, a pastel version of the Scream by Norwegian painter Edvard Munch sells for $120 million in a New York City auction, setting a new world record for a work of an art at auction. 2014, two mudslides in Badkhassan, Afghanistan leaves up to 2,500 people missing. Thank you very much for your patience. Request for like, share and subscribe.